I am Netmover Zitan. In this, I shall be covering the main antagonistic faction in Leviathan. And as before, I will warn you there will be spoilers for past works from Project Moon. The Five Fingers. The five most powerful syndicates within the city. The organized criminals of the Backstreets that have power that rivals that of the Wings. Each varied in their methods. Each dangerous in their own way. The Thumb are the most normal of them. They have a mafia-style organization, although the Kurokomo clan are patterned on the Yakuza. Obsessed with hierarchy and protocol, which even extends to outsiders, where speaking to a superior without asking permission can cause you to lose your tongue. Arguing with a superior can cause you to lose an arm. Questioning the capo di capi can cause you to lose your head. You show no respect, you'll sleep with the fishes. Capiche? The Index are a bunch of blind zealots that follow the prescripts, often insane-sounding instructions because they have nothing better to do. The prescripts created by the numerous vibrations made by movements of everyone in the city that are turned into prescripts by looms. All connected to what appears to be an earthquake pendulum. I theorize that the head might have set that up long ago to create a powerful syndicate to keep the others from overreaching themselves. As for the middle, it's hinted by a conversation between Roland the Black Silence and the boss of the Ruminos cartel, a Thumb subsidiary, just before he tore through them, that it was about brotherhood. Considering that Roland saw their pathetic display of that when he killed around half of those in the south of the city. Not much else is known about them at present, other than Tanya was one of their executives. As for the Pinky, they were fighting the Ring during the events of Library of Ruina, so they weren't involved in the events of that story. Speaking of the Ring, there's information on that, based on their appearance in Leviathan. The Ring are a syndicate that only trusts what they see, and so are a bunch of mad artists. I believe that Nezak, the patron librarian of art, said something along the lines of mental stability in art being an occupational hazard. In fact, Vincent van Gogh was one of the more well-known examples of this. In this case, within the Ring, insanity increases as they rise through the ranks. As for the ring that they wear, it's a display of rank. The more coils that are part of it, the higher the rank. The Maestro having 3 coils on that ring. Actually, let's go over the hierarchy, as while they aren't as obsessed about it as the Thumb, it's still needed, so that they know who's above and below. First, there's the common thug, the equivalent of the soldato in the Thumb. They wear white shirt, white waistcoat, and white trousers. They act as clerks in their front businesses, and usually as guards that fight intruders that aren't in places that they should be. Such as the occasional fixer that's getting into their business. Against the ordinary person on the street, they can handle those. But against a seasoned fixer, they go down easily. They likely have a ring that only has one coil. Then we have the docent, a mid-level officer. That's the equivalent of a capo in the firm. They act as guides in their front businesses, including the occasional art auction. They wear a white jacket. Oh, how appropriate. That partially exposes the chest with tattoos on display. Now, for those that aren't aware, tattoos have a negative implication in parts of East Asia. In Japan, it's the sign of a criminal. In South Korea, it's viewed as a mark of punishment or ownership. In this case, the former is not off by much, if it's off at all. There's also white trousers and heeled shoes. Yes. They're also armed with a deceptively thin mace, or cane. Well, they use that to deliver blunt force trauma. The insanity is more clear with them. They likely have 2 coils on their rings. Then we have the maestro, the equivalent of the sottocapo in the firm. They're truly nasty pieces of work, certainly in Maestro Jumsun's case. To them, it's less about the money and more about the artistic expression. Reason is not high with these nut jobs, as I'll go over later. Their suits are made to assist in agility, to make them harder to hit. Rather, to be hit. Which is certainly a good method of defending against damage, getting out of the way of what would cause harm. Ooh, they must have paid a tailor much for that. Yeah, as getting that kind of fabric, it doesn't come cheap, especially as the tailors need to eat something that's agile. They stand out from the docents by wearing a hat that wouldn't be out of place on a woman of high standing in the 1930s. And as previously mentioned, has a ring with 3 coils. Now, if there's an equivalent of the capo dei capi in the thumb, the one that's in charge of that finger, they likely have a 4-coiled ring and is about as unstable as the Roman Emperor Nero. And this is considering that he was big on performing in public. And in that era, in Roman society, public performers were in the same class as prostitutes. So that's about as inappropriate as he could be. Well, yeah, it's about as inappropriate as a female member of royalty doing a pole dance. And why do I say about as unstable as him? Well, this is considering that the ring will not just kill the one that crosses them, they've been known to kill their entire family. As for their initiation rites, well, they start by recruiting them out of a group of those taking an art test, where they make works of art, and those that are considered good enough are recruited. But if they fail 3 times, they get brutally killed. Yeah, I know. The art world can be brutal at times, but in our world they're not that brutal. To the point where they're bludgeoned to death. Then they're made to pose as living statues. The kind that you, find in parts of London. where they're at risk of getting killed by a docent that was facing them in the wrong way. As for how they operate, they run art galleries as at least one of their front businesses, getting money from those that visit them, while the VIP room is restricted to those that have authorization to go there, as that's where art auctions take place, where those in attendance bid quite a bit of for unique art pieces, such as urns filled with hair from those that lived in a town that was wiped from the map, and a dancer in a time dilation field where choosing a bid that isn't the highest in as far as a maestro would be concerned, would cause that particular group of ring members to take a hit in their reputation. As for how they fit into the story, let's go into that. They were watching the orphanage, and after Virgilius stopped going there, after Tomeri destroyed it, they took the orphans there and subjected them to experiments involving their pilfered N-Corp scientist Azia, who was operating the window technology for them. But one of those orphans, Lapis, was able to smuggle a video recording of this and send it to Garnet, which led to Virgilius, the Red Gaze, and his fixers looking into this. Most of them for the money, but for Virgilius and Garnet, it was personal. Maestro Jumsun, one that wanted to create perfection with the gems that was the orphans, to make them twisted works of art by using the window technology, wanting to use them as a miracle happened. Yes, that miracle happened when Virgilius stopped visiting them, and that Maestro Jumsun was able to collect all but Garnet. Well, Jumsun was able to collect Lapis because she was working for a front company that delivered fruit that was left to rot. Yes, Garnet needed to come to Maestro Jumsun. Well, let's just say when the window device was focused entirely on the mad artist, the insanity didn't get any better or worse upon distorting. Well, this is brought into context when, in a different reality, Maestro Garnet turned people into gems as an expression of artistic expression, and sold them in an auction. Yes, this didn't exactly go as planned, as with most it resulted in failure, as those in the cocoons made by the window device, they were distorted into mindless beasts. Well, those that acted little more than those. These cocoons were also part of the White Knights that Angela made possible. It was a new aspect of the distortion. And after Virgilius resisted Carmen's influence, he did not distort. He was armed with a hemokinetic psychoment, making him more powerful than ever. Yes, he renewed his assault on the Ring Maestro. That wouldn't look out of place in a shonen anime. In fact, if the magical girls saw the distorted Maestro, it would give them purpose, fighting this evil. But they're not there, so Virgilius would have to do. who was exposed to the dots that Jumsun was attacking him with, and a wave of indigo paints. And he responded with a line of blood that hit the... Well, it hit the mad artist as if he was a certain hellfire-armed ninja. But the red gaze was unable to finish the job, as Jumsun was then sliced in half by Schreidenfeinde. Okay, let's stop there for now. I have much more to go over before I can move on with this. Let's see, what else can I talk about? The Ring would probably welcome someone like Sander Cohen from BioShock with open arms. In fact, he'd probably even be a maestro. He's certainly nutty enough for that, with some unique ideas about art. And he is certainly willing to resort to excessive violence towards those that get in his way, or are just some art critics. Just don't imagine him in Jumsun's outfits. Ugh, that would make it even worse. The more I learn about the Fingers, the less bad I feel about them getting slaughtered by factions such as the Library. A shame that those killed by the Library didn't stay dead, like the Reverberation Ensemble. But then again, they didn't appear in the Library itself. Who knows, perhaps the Middle and the Pinky will be revealed in Limbus Company, and we'll get a greater detailed account on them and how they operate. The Head had the power to utterly annihilate them. Even their combined forces wouldn't be enough to withstand either an Arbiter or a Claw. So why don't they attack them and get rid of a rival to the Wings? Well, the answer is simple. It helps keep the Wings in check. If they're focused on even the potential threat of the Fingers, they're not plotting against the Head and trying to usurp control. They'll focus on making money to fill the Head's coffers, and keep this uneasy truce between the Wings and the Fingers, and even each other. Yes, all to make all opposition to their rule get rid of itself by focusing on each other. There's that, and they also want to try and, well, at least prevent the ordinary people in the Backstreets from getting any ideas. Yeah, the Head clearly wants segregation, not based on race, gender, or even sexual orientation. Nest and Backstreets. Each ruled by an elite class, each being oppressed by them, and an uneasy truce that keeps the city a place. The Head's... yes, the Head being the ones having the most to gain from this. The outskirts being the dumping ground of anything that even the Backstreet sees as unworthy of staying among them. Impurities or otherwise. Then we have patent wars that can occur between Wings. That's where the infighting comes in. Where it can be a Pyrrhic victory at best, where the victory isn't worth the cost. Well, the only ones that truly benefit are those from Uifi Association and its affiliates. Yes, those glorified lawyers that make heaps of money from both sides of a patent war. You know what? I'm starting to think that Angela had the right idea towards the end of Library of Ruina. Focus her attention on the head. They started this war, this hidden war, and eventually, a time of reckoning will be among them, upon them even. And they made the mistake twice of preemptively attacking, which ended up creating the threats that they're trying to prevent. Firstly, by attacking Ayin and Benjamin along with others within that lab in the outskirts, out of fear of creating an AI, which ended up being the reason why they made the AI in the first place. That AI being Angela. Then they attacked the library to try and destroy Angela because she displayed behavior that made her an impurity. Never mind the fact that she's an android. She didn't even think about being a threat to them specifically until they tried to destroy her. Yes, whatever the reason why the head are perpetuating this cycle of pain, misery, and suffering, it's likely to be a similar reason to why Ingsoc maintained its status quo in 1984. In both cases, not for good reasons. But meanwhile, Virgilius, Dante, and the damned dozen have their own problems to deal with. And that problem is retrieving the golden bars, the source of the power that Lobotomy Corporation, yes, Lobotomy Corporation, once generated. And that will be no simple task. In fact, I'll go over that once I do that lore series. But I'm not done here yet. I still have some things to cover before this lore series is officially done. Next, I'll be talking about the wings and the after effects of the events of Library of Ruina, and by extension the Lobotomy Corporation. Until next time. Hail the rabbit!